But Ruth is here with us, but Ruth is here in a different capacity because at this point, she would usually join us and we'd share what our week is in review is with her as well.
Mm-hmm.
But tonight's a little bit different. Tonight we will be having a conversation between friends. Ruth, as you know, is an author and co-host here at Authors Up. But tonight she is going to be joined by with her husband, Maurice Griffin. They are our guests. This is his first book. They have collaborated together. The book is entitled When Love is Angry. It is a great book, and they are here to share with us tonight. Welcome to our guests, Ruth and Maurice Griffin. You know what to do. Send up some hearts, and we're going to give them a little bit of applause and a little woohoo right here.
Welcome, guys. Thank you. It's a little weird being on this side of the heart, but thank you.
I know.
There she is. There's my other bronze girl. Right here.
Well, we don't have, we usually read bios and do those kinds of things at this point in the program when we introduce our guests, but we want our guests to speak tonight. So we're going to start with you, Maurice. Tell us a little bit about where you're from and what you do, and tell us a little bit about you.
Oh, where do we start? I am a Sagittarius. No, I am not. No, I y'all know the song. Don't act like you don't. But I am originally from the Midwest, from Michigan. I call it one of the original snow states. I don't like snow, so I had to come down. I just jumped off the boat and came down to the hot part of the country in the southeast. I moved down here, 99? Yeah, 99. So I think I'm officially here longer than any place else. So I am a North Carolinian. What brought me down was my job or career path, which I work in media. I currently work at a local cable station here. And it's weird to say this because I remember when I first started, I've been doing this for, let's see, probably almost 25 years, maybe even longer. So I've been doing that for a while, and it's really weird that now I don't see myself as this, but I'm kind of the older guy in it. So that's what I do as a career or job, but in the meantime, what my real kind of hobby or I'll say hobby / passion is cooking. I like to cook, just nothing elaborate, but I like to go in the kitchen and just kind of create stuff. And from that, I birthed, which I thought was kind of the go-to thing. I birthed a tomato-based kind of Kansas City style barbecue sauce, which I have in stores and sell, and we're local right now. I emphasize right now because we're on the web and we're looking to blow up, so to speak. So that was that, and I thought that was it. But how many of you know? And you guys probably have talked to people like life is a journey. So and it still feels weird to say that I wrote a book. I'm a published author. And Ruth will tell you, like a few nights ago, I just looked at her real strange out of the blue, and I said, "I'm a published author." And she was like, "Yes, you are." I was like, "Oh, okay." So that's kind of my spiel in a nutshell. So, and I'm married to my lovely wife Ruth, I'll pass the baton to her and let her tell you about, I guess, something that you probably don't know. I don't know. There you go, dear.
Thank you. Okay,
and Ruth, I know most of our listening audience knows you already, but just share something about where you're from and what you've been doing, and tell us just a little bit more about your journey. And before we totally switch and let you talk, I want everybody to know, at the end of the program, because I don't want to forget this, at the end of the program when Victoria usually says, get the book, get the book, get the book, I'm going to be the one behind her saying, get the barbecue sauce, get the barbecue sauce, get the barbecue sauce. Because Jim
yes, the sauce, the secret's in the sauce.
I didn't want that. Ruth, you'll forgive me because I just had to get that in. But now tell us all about you, Ruth.
No, you know what? And I'll agree with you because, my husband says he likes to cook. Well, I like to eat. So we are perfectly paired. Yeah, and that barbecue sauce, you know what? You don't even need meat to eat it. You could throw it on cornbread, on beans, on vegetables, whatever you're eating, it works. So that's my spiel. Okay, so I'm originally from New Jersey. Very proud of that, although I probably would never move back there again. Great place to visit at this point, but I don't know that I would recommend living there. Let's see. I somehow ended up in Ohio, which is where I met Maurice, and we moved down to North Carolina. Was it 22 years ago? So I guess technically we're now North Carolinians, like you said. Let's see. I don't know if I ever shared this with you guys, but I actually wrote my first book when I was 15 years old. So I've been writing for a long time. Unfortunately, I was a teenager and I just threw the book away. I still remember parts of it. I don't think I would ever share it with anybody, but so I've been doing this for a while, although it's more of a less of a hobby and more of a, hey, I want to do this full time. So I just truly believe that everything we do works together for our good. So regardless of where we are employed, where I am employed, what I'm doing, I just believe that contributes to the greater vision. So, I enjoy my job. I enjoy publishing. I enjoy writing. And I think that it just all works together for whatever God's got in store for us. So that's my spiel. Yep.
All right. Well, Ruth, you kind of glossed over that. Y'all both glossed over that. Y'all met in Ohio. Tell our listeners how you actually met and where.
Oh, okay. Well, we met at Marietta College. I was a freshman. He was senior. Last year, we worked at, what are you reading about?
That's a whole nother story. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, there's a long story in there. We tried to get the book to get it. But no, we both worked in the college life office. We were doing work study, and we just kind of, campus life, and we met, we started hanging out, and it just kind of went from there. So,
All right.
Then he went back home, and we ended up in Dayton, Ohio, and we've been together since.
All right. So how long you say you've been married? 22 years?
23? No, 23. I don't know, 23. Okay,
somebody
tell us how long y'all been married. Okay, come on.
That's what,
22.
Yeah.
It's 22 June 13th, like 6 weeks.
Yeah, so see, you remember the
right.
anniversary. No, we don't do math on this show. We need to get it right. We just do writing, not math.
And for the record, the guy actually remembered because the guys usually don't remember.
I hear you. Thank you for clearing that up. I appreciate it. Now we know the title.
The guy is in the doghouse. You know what day it is? You say?
All right. Well, I'm just going to throw this one out there. We know that. We said the title of the book was "When Love is Angry," but the subtitle is it's a memoir from the other side of mental illness. And I really think this is really appropriate because, we're getting ready to, go into May, and May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So can you guys tell us a little bit about how the book was birthed? I guess my great question was, tell us how the book came to be, and how long before you were married before you began understanding that there was something wrong?
Is that me here?
Yeah, that is you.
Crazy as it sounds, honestly, I was thinking about this today coming back home. The book actually was kind of my thing, and I don't say it braggadociously, I kind of say it nervously, but honestly, the book was birthed out of anger. And and I was thinking about it today, it kind of dawned on me. Sometimes when people say anger, they kind of run away from it, or they kind of avoid people who are angry, or don't want to say they're angry or whatever. But really, anger is kind of the emotions check engine light for all of us. It kind of says, hey, something's out of whack. Something's wrong here, and you need to check something. And how the book was really birthed, and I try to say this as quick as possible, was when Ruth and I first got married, God gave me a very specific command concerning my wife. I was actually getting dressed for work one day, and nothing was wrong, and God showed up. And he basically said these words to me. He was like, he told me he had a special covenant with my wife, and I better honor it. And that was it. And I was like, okay, well, there you go. So at that point, I knew, if anything, the best way to say it is Ruth was rolling with muscle when it came to our relationship. I wasn't just dealing with Ruth, my wife. I was dealing with Ruth, my wife, who God gave me, and was sitting there making sure that things were right by me. So that's the way I approached it. So if I ever got upset or angry, my first reaction was like, okay, wait a minute. I can't say anything. So the first thing I would do, and I know Ruth would say it'd probably drive her crazy, is I would just shut down. I would be like, okay, I can't say anything because I don't see you. I see God. So I'm not going to just spout off at the mouth. And so kind of fast forward, there was the one key point is whenever I got upset with Ruth, I never said anything. And sometimes in those moments of if I got upset with her, I would go to God and say, God, this is not right. This is not. And there would be times where I say, I'm angry, help. And it was interesting because God he would say things other than what I was dealing with, and I'd be like, oh, okay. So fast forward to, I think it was 2018. I was actually going out of town for work, and I had to leave real early because I had to be like on the coast at like 8 a.m. So I was, in the car driving during this dark, and I had a family member used to call me in the morning, and it comes out. I found out later that this family member had some issues that we were dealing with. We didn't know, but this was the early onset of it. So the family member called me while I was driving in the car. And, at 6 o'clock in the morning, you're like, okay, if you're calling me, something's wrong. So I'm like, hello? And his family member proceeds to complain about nothing. And so this was not the first time this happened. So it was like a repeat pattern. So at this point, I was frustrated with this person. And I was like, listen, I can't deal with that right now. I'm not going to deal with that right now. I don't know what's going on with you, but I got a busy week. I don't have time for this. So good luck. And I remember hanging up the phone, and I told God, I was like, I'm not dealing with that. I am not dealing with that. I'm not going down this road. I know I'm upset with this person. I should not be upset with this person. I'm not dealing with it. It's out of my thing. And I even said it to the point of like, if this person call me back, they're going to voicemail. I know that's wrong, God, but I can't deal with that. So I went through my day. Everything was fine. So about the next morning, I had to leave even earlier from that place to get to another place. I had like about 3.5 hour, 4 hour drive. And, it's like in the middle of the night. And so I'm driving down the highway in the middle of the night. And it's something about when you get out in the middle of the night and you're driving or you're someplace by yourself, it's really peaceful. And I was peaceful. I was just kind of lost in my thoughts. And I was just thinking about different stuff and letting my mind kind of wander. And I remember going back to the day before and I started thinking about that. And I was like, why is this person doing this? I don't get it. And I felt myself getting upset. And I just remember going back to what I had with Ruth. And I was like, God, I should not be feeling this way. I am angry at this person. I should not be. So I need help. And this is what God said. He said, look around. And he said, if you were to turn your lights off while you're driving the highway, what would you see? And I was like, I would literally be like, it would be like a dream because I couldn't see nothing because it's pitch black. I'm in the middle of the country. He said, exactly. And he said, that's what people with depression deal with every day. He said, the only difference was in a couple hours, the sun's going to come up. With people with depression, the sun never comes up. They see everything around them. They see all this, everything around them, everything's going on. And depression is something that it doesn't have a speech impairment. It doesn't have a physical impairment. So nobody knows. But that person is dealing with this. And it's not a sharp pain like something you deal with like a cut, or maybe you ladies know the sharpness of a childbirth or a contraction. He said it's a dull, grinding pain. It's like a headache. Sometimes it gets up to a migraine. Sometimes it comes back down, but it never leaves. He said that's what depression is. And I was like, okay. Wow. He said that's what your wife's been dealing with. And I'm like, huh? He said she's been dealing with it, even though you're married to her. She's been dealing with it by herself. And at that point, I was like, whoa. I was literally doing what I did now. I just paused. I was like, okay. And he said, she's been dealing with it for a reason. And he just began to talk to me about Ruth. And a lot of times, I know this is going to sound weird, but everybody has their quirks. And sometimes my quirk is I spend a lot of time traveling in my car sometimes. So I actually have conversations like this where I'm just kind of talking stuff out. And sometimes I think it's mostly to God, but most of the time I'm just talking stuff out verbally like this. I can do it now because now everybody has Bluetooth. So if somebody passes you're talking, they may think you're on the phone. Sometimes it's just me talking. And so as I begin to talk it out, God began to show me, he was basically saying, Ruth has been called for this. She went through it for a reason. And he began to show me glimpses of stuff. And I was just like floored. I was just like, okay, so I began to talk this out. And like I said, I had a 3-hour drive. And by the time I finished talking, I was at my destination. So I literally talked this thing out for 3 hours. And during that time, he was just showing me stuff. And I just told God, I was like, I don't have to have, I'm in. I'm on board. Whatever it takes, I just want to be a part of this. I done messed this thing up, so I want to be a part of this. So what do you want me to do? I don't care. I do not care. I'm not messing this up no more because you just explained to me what my wife has walked through for years by herself. And I'm here in the house with her. And so he just began to show me that. And so the more I talked it out, and it's funny because sometimes God will show you stuff and you'll be like, no, that's crazy. And I thought it was me, but it's funny because when he showed me stuff that day that I thought was me, and one of the things has already happened, and I was just like, okay, that was God, that wasn't me thinking I was crazy. But the more I talked it out, I was like, this is more than just talking. And then one day I was talking it out, kind of because I kept going over and over again. And one day I just heard in the back of my mind, why don't you just write it down? I was like, maybe I should write it down. And so I was like, if nothing else, I could write it down to leave a blueprint for my kids. And I was just, and sometimes when you start writing stuff down, you don't get the full plan until you start moving. So as I started writing it down and moving, I kind of said, okay, but maybe this is a book. So I said, I'll just try it. No big deal. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So I started writing it, and as I began to write it, it was like I was like, okay, I thought it would be more words than this. And then in the back of my mind, I said, maybe you're supposed to co-author. Maybe Ruth is supposed to help you give her side of the story too. So I was like,
Wow.
okay. So I said, well, let me finish my part. So I was like, I started, I think I want to say the end of 2018, I kind of started. Ruth, you can correct the dates if I'm wrong. 2018, I started, and then Christmas came and stuff like that. So I sat it down for a little while, but it was always there. I said, I got to do that. I got to do this. I can't, let God, what I've heard fall on void. So I said, I got to do this. And so beginning of the next year, I said, I'm going to finish this. So when I got towards the end of it, we were sitting on the couch one night, and I was like, hey, Ruth, what if I told you I think you're supposed to write a book? And she was like, about? I said, about us, just our life and stuff. And she was like, oh, okay. So I was kind of finished. I didn't tell her that part, but I was kind of finished, and I kind of just proofread it for myself. And I gave it to her, and then she finally picked it up. And so it's in the book, but she kind of tells what happened when she kind of first read it. So I'll stop there and let Ruth kind of pick it up from there.
Thanks, go ahead, Ruth. Go ahead. We're listening.
Yeah, we're in listen mode tonight.
We don't have a thing to ask right now. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, everyone. Okay, so yeah, I was in shock, to be honest, because you go through something and you just don't see the end of it, and it was just that was not what I was expecting. I'm the same way that my husband cooks, and I write, and usually he doesn't. So
right,
it was beyond expectation, and when I read it, it was it was. I think validation is the best way I can put it. And again, it's in the book because, I was diagnosed with bipolar depression 2005, I believe. And it got progressively worse before it got better. And it was very difficult to go through because, we were angry. It wasn't just me. It wasn't just Maurice. We were angry because there was a lot we did not understand and a lot we did not talk about. But, we were able to give it to God, and he began healing us. But the book itself was not something I expected. And certainly me not writing it, because I understood as I read it that I would have to relive everything as I wrote it down, and I was not ready to do that. So I dragged my feet for about 6 months, and it was last year during the pandemic, and that's when Victoria, your wonderful self, said, "Hey, let's all do the National Novel Writing Contest in November." And it was like
I did, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
Was that you? I thought it was.
Yeah, that was her.
Did that? That's you that did that?
Yeah, that was her.
Sandy, you put that out there?
Yeah, I did. Okay,
but
keep going, Ruth. Keep going.
But I mean, it was 6 months, and I kept telling God, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. I promise I'm gonna get to it. And He finally said, do it then. Just dedicate a little each night. And He said, you will find your healing in writing it. And I took Him at His word. And it was difficult because I was crying most nights as I wrote, but it got done. And it kind of amazed me because by the time I got to the end of it, I felt differently. It was a story that I could share. Sometimes we think about stuff we go through and you don't necessarily want to tell anybody about it because it still hurts. But at this point, the book was something that I understood could help other people. People who have been diagnosed, people who need to be diagnosed, people who just are hurting. And that's the thing, that was the thing that got me for so many years because, I was raised by a Pentecostal grandmother, I was taught you people in the church, we're Christian, we believe God, you Christians, you should be praying. Ain't nothing wrong with you, just go pray, there's demons. So it's just, that kind of mentality. In you're like, okay, well, obviously I can't tell anybody I'm sick. I can't take my pills, can't do this stuff. And it's just, but there are people out there who need to hear, okay, you know what? It's okay. There may not be any outward symptoms in the same way that someone with, cancer or diabetes, you see what's wrong with them. But, this is still a legitimate disease. And it needs the same attention. And you know what? The thing that I've learned in the last, okay, here comes the math again, over 15 years, is that God is a healer. And I never heard or saw anyone who had been, quote unquote, healed of mental health issues. But as I returned more and more to God, as I turned more to Him, I was able to see that was possible. And I want other people to see that is possible. So that's...
And go ahead.
No, it's not.
But I was going to say, as another thing, Ruth said she was scared. I was first because I was like, I'm about to go into, and I knew it. I was like, I'm about to jump into some places that she never knew. And when I gave her the book, I remember the day I gave her the book and sent it to her. She went to her office. She's actually sitting where she was. She's probably sitting now. And it felt like this because I looked at it hindsight. I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know something's going to happen. I was just prepared. If she would have came out and looked at me and said, make me this promise, and I would have said, what? If she would have said, make me this promise that you pack your bags, you walk out that door and don't ever come back. I was like, wow. I don't know what's going to happen. And I was like, and it was legit. It was a legit thought. I said, it could go either way. Any pendulum could swing both ways. Or she could say, you know what? Delete every word and don't say another word about it. I was like, I just didn't know. So it was like she talked about fear going back. It was like it was actually legitimate concern. I wouldn't say fear, concern, giving it to her, saying, "This is where I'm at." So, and luckily it didn't happen that way. I'm still here.
Oh, I'm so glad.
No, and the thing you have to understand is this is not something that we both came from families where you didn't talk. And there was no communication in marriages. Both our parents were divorced and divorced for reasons. So it was just, we had committed, that was never an option. But, and again, you read it in the book, but there was a good almost a year where we really didn't talk. There was no conversation. There was just, one word sentences. And that was painful. But it never occurred to me because, it was a really difficult time because I did not know what to do, and it was just, and God just kept saying, okay, well, don't say anything. And I was like, well, I haven't said anything. And you argue with God and you're just like, well, I haven't been saying anything. But then you look back and you realize, you know what? A lot of what you said has been in anger. A lot of what you said has been in judgment. It has been negative. And it's just you realize when God tells you to be quiet, there's a reason, that He's doing something and you just need to listen. So, honestly, it never occurred to me when He gave me that book to say anything other than, wow, because I knew that more than it was Maurice saying, okay, here, this is what I did. It was God saying, you know what? This is why I told you to be quiet. This is why I said, I told you to do all those things. This is what was going on, and here's your answer. So
Oh, wow.
Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
want to
I-
make
I-
a comment right in here too, because I read the book. Um, it's it's it tugs at you. You don't have to have mental illness. You don't have to be married. You don't have to have that kind of relationship. But it tugs at you because everybody understands pain, and
Yeah.
everybody understands hurt, and on what level you happen to be on. But I always, we always say that everybody has a story. It just depends on whether or not you want to tell it. But when you're telling this kind of story, and a lot of I think about this with other authors that we've had on the program, it's never just your story.
Right.
If you had not chosen to be a co-author in this, it would have still been your story. Because of what happened, because of what you all went through in your marriage, because you have children, it's also their story. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how do you get past that and push to complete the project, knowing and realizing that other people are going to really be affected by your transparency and by your truth with all of this?
Right.
Am I first again? I guess the silence again.
That's a deep question. You gotta think about that one.
Mhm.
For me, it was really simple. I was I was in my feelings because I was the Christian that said I believe God, I believe in prayer, and I was the one that was pushing to that extreme, to saying just prayer works, prayer changes everything. That's what the Bible. We hear that week in and week out. Prayer changes, prayer changes. But what happened where I messed up is God was giving me practical things to do, but I was too proud, whatever, stupid, ignorant, whatever you want to call it, to do it. And so, truthfully, God got tired. And he came to me one day. I don't know why, but I was at work. I was driving and I was having my little gripe session with God. And I was like, Ruth is this, Ruth is that. Why'd you do that? Blah, 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 blah. God stopped me. He said, your wife's a good woman. And see, on the surface, that's just for you all and everybody here. It's like, oh, okay. But what he showed me, and he showed me this twice, and it's in the book. He was getting ready to shut a door that he wasn't going to open. And when I seen that pain, it was like my depression moment. It gnawed at me day and night. It would pop up. Ruth would be, I love you. It would pop up. And I'm like, and I just got tired of it. And I was like, and finally it just gnawed at me where I said, this is it. I can't live like this. I can't. So for me, I just begin to say, okay, what is it? And so I just begin to listen. What's the little things? It wasn't the big things. It was the little things. Little things like this. And see, people don't understand it. I was praying for stuff, and sometimes, like in the mornings, I exercise in the morning. So sometimes I'll get up in the morning, and I'll leave, and Ruth will be dead asleep. And so I'll be walking, sneaking, trying to be quiet and trying to get out the door. And God would say, kiss your wife before you leave. I don't want to wake her. Yeah, I don't want to wake her. God telling me to kiss my wife before I leave. And really he got tired. So I was just like, okay, tell her that you love her. Stuff like that. It wasn't big things. It was just little things. She's tired. Do this. It was just the little things. And I was just like, And finally that day he said it, and it just kept gnawing at me. So I started thinking back over, because a lot of times when we mess up, we know. We don't have to be super whatever. We know, and we could go back to where it was. It's like, okay. So I just began to just make up in my mind, because I came from a family, and maybe Ruth did, but I did. I came from a family where my dad, growing up, he might have said he loved me twice. I love him, and he does love me. I know that, but he might have verbally said it twice. And so I was like, I'll show you I love you. Ruth, I gave you a house. I take care of you. I come home at night. I love you. You know, this, you see my love in action. But God gave me a woman who wants to hear it. And so I had to figure that out, and had not figured out. I knew. I just had to just get out of my emotions and do it. And it's interesting that once I started, you asked me what changed, is that I just had to make up in my mind, because I got that tired of that pain gnawing at me. So I was like, what is it going to hurt to tell my wife I love her? What is it going to hurt to kiss her on the forehead if I walk out of the door at 5 o'clock in the morning? So that, I'm getting long-winded, but that was my thing. What kind of pushed me back to that.
What about you, Ruth?
Yeah.
You know, I think with, you know, thinking about your question about, you know, it isn't just my story. It's not just our story. And the thing is, you know, there's a lot, you know, it's like throwing rocks in a pond. You know, you see the ripples in the water. And the fact is, you know, you think back about it, and I was that clingy kid. I needed to hear, I love you, from my parents, to know that they loved me, you know. And it just, I know that, you know, whatever happens there, you know, carried into adulthood. And, you know, that's how we raise our kids, via what happened to us. So it's a cycle. But, you know, I think about, you know, the mistakes that were made from my parents, and I love them both. And I know that, you know, whatever mistakes they made, you know, it's done, you know, and it's shaped me who I am today. You know, it's shaped us who we are, and we decide who we are in Christ. But, you know, the truth is, you know, part of me not wanting to relive this stuff is the shame that comes with it. So for me to be able to write it is for me to be able to say, you know what, you know, especially with my kids, especially with my husband, because they're the ones who carried the brunt of the anger that I had over all those years. So in a way, I understand that it's also their story, but they're able to understand now. They're able to see, they're able to, you know, understand, you know, the things that happen, able to understand maybe why they act a certain way. You know, I've had to go to therapy. I've had to talk to God, you know, to figure some things out. And, you know, in respect to them, and, you know, they'll be able to understand that better, you know. And it just, you know, my prayer is anyone who reads it may be able to find, you know, I truly believe that when you pick up a book, you know, whatever book it is, you know, it can make a difference for you. And sometimes God has you pick up particular books because of that difference it can make. And, you know, like you said, Elder, you know, you don't have to be suffering with mental health issues. You don't have to be married. You know, it's just, I truly believe that you'll find something in there, especially if it's God speaking to you. So, you know, that's just my prayer when I actually sat down to write the book. It dragged my feet for a while, but I know, you know, I'm grateful for my husband writing what he did, and I'm grateful for Victoria saying, "Hey, let's all write together."
Yeah, you was mighty quiet about your subject matter. That's okay.
I know, right?
And I just have to say that I when I read the book, I've read it too, and I just cried. I cried because like Elder said, it tugged at your heart, but it's also the story of, reading what you guys went through, and knowing how you God had to stop you in your tracks and make you shift to another way. And then I knew that once I read it, I knew that your story was going to bless other people, and it blessed me. It blessed me, and it changed my heart on some things. If I'm really pretty transparent, I could be a little stubborn too. So watching, reading your story and knowing that there's some things in my own life that I needed to change, and then dealing with mental health in my own family, with someone who's really close to me, and that struggle, which is pretty new to me, and all of that combined, and I love the way how the book is written. Maurice says his part, then Ruth says her part about the same subject, and I'm listeners, you really got to get this one. It's a special book, and I just commend the two of you for just following what God says. So I'm just going to ask you guys this: how are things now?
You go first.
That says it all right there.
You know what? And that's the amazing part, because I had to think about it, and part of this was, the mental illness. It was, for the longest time, we were angry, and speaking for myself, it was just like, I don't know how I feel. But honestly, I am so filled with the joy of the Lord. And I know that sounds like a cliche. I'm happy. I really am happy. And I am happy where we're at. And I am just, I love my life. I don't know how to put it any other way than that. So your turn, dear.
It's a good place to be. It really is. It's just because I'm trying to think of how to say this. Because I'm not saying when you go through something and you go through it and God is there, it just strengthens your faith to say, you too can do this. Because sometimes God will just take me along and just show me different things about us. And I just kind of look at it and go, this was fine. And I really believe this. And some people, different things, is like, this was meant to be. This was formed from the foundation. God, you put this in motion. You really did. Even before we were born, you was like, Ruth and Mo, yep. Watch what I do with them two. It ain't gonna make no sense, but watch what I do with them two. And I'm beginning to understand it. And I don't have all the answers. I don't know everything. And trials may come, tribulations, whatever. But it's just like, okay, we went through that. Let's keep going and see what happens.
Yeah.
And just people see us, and I've never really understood it, that people always say this to us, and they say it even from our leadership at church, which really messes me up. They're like, man, we love you guys. You guys are just great. You're like, okay. But I think I'm beginning to understand this, and I say it very cautiously, or that's not the word I'm looking for. I say it with reverence, very reverence, in saying God, or with great responsibility, in saying, God, people do love us. They see something that maybe we don't even see, but we'll just go with it, and we'll make sure that we keep pointing people back to you and nothing else. And see, I'm the person, and the real reason why I wrote the book, and I told God this, because sometimes when you guys are authors, so sometimes you write stuff, and I had that crazy idea, is like, maybe I'll do a Joel Osteen, I'll write a book and it'll sell 250,000 copies or whatever. And I thought to myself, I was like, well, let me get stuff out the way. And I really thought, like, why are you writing this book? And I wrote the book for this simple reason. I don't want anybody to go through what I went through. That's really it. You don't want God, sovereign God, to show up at your, because you didn't listen and say something that will gnaw and eat at you, because I'm telling you, if Summer Guy shows up and says something that will, and it gnaws and eats at you, only he can take it away. And he may not. And you just, and you have to realize that, I could have created this. So I really wrote it from that point. And I said, God, I'm writing this book. If we sell only one copy, only one person gets delivered, it was worth it. I told him, I said,
I tell you what, it's going to be more than one. You can believe it's going to be more than one. and I am so grateful. I'm grateful that you wrote it. I got a lot out of it. I'm grateful that we had the opportunity to have you on Authors Up tonight and sharing with us. We have completely run out of time, but I tell you, every word was worth it. I am just so glad that you followed God. Everybody doesn't, but I am glad that you followed God, and I know that comments about the book are going to applaud that as well. But we've come to the end of our journey tonight. This part of a writing journey for Maurice and Ruth Griffin. Victoria, you know what it's time for you to do right now before we close out. Let's hear it.
Get the book, get the book, get the book. And I hope some men will get the book, ladies. We have a lot of women listeners. Get the book for the men in your life. And like Maurice said, he doesn't want anybody else to go through what he went through. Get the book. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you guys for being here.
and it's you know what to do when we get to this point in the program, everybody. Let's send some hearts up for Maurice and for Ruth Griffin. Thank you again for being with us, and I'm sure Ruth, they're going to be able to get the book at Amazon.
Absolutely, yes, anywhere you get your books online.
Okay, great, great, wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for being with us tonight. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Maurice, for being with us tonight. And you know that we are going to be right back here Sunday evening at 7 p.m. Until then, this is Andrea Hines with Victoria Henderson Poole and Ruth Griffin. And there's never a dull moment here at
Authors Up.